Well, hello again, everybody. I hope you're all keeping well. I just want to read out some names to you of people, and I'm going to tell you what they all have in common. There's Otis Redding, Graham Parsons, Nick Drake, Buddy Holly, Keith Moon, Aliyah, Randy Rhoads, Cliff Burton from Metallica, Steve Clark from Def Leppard, Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols, Bon Scott, and Ian Curtis from Joy Division. What do all these people have in common? And I've only just touched a little list. I could have read out more and more and more. They died and they were not 27 when they died. So, where does this look in terms of the 27 Club? The 27 Club is this theory belief that rock stars, some symbolic or esoteric reason why rock stars are die or are murdered or are suicided at 27. Statistically, when you compare it to the other deaths of rock stars, the age doesn't stand out. It's a specific data criteria that just it pulls itself out, and it looks good, it sounds good, it has a titillation to it, and but a lot of rock stars, and I just named someone. I just Mark Bolan is another one that popped into my head. I know about all the rappers. Look at all them, and most of them didn't die when they were 27. So that got me thinking about this whole thing of like the conspiracy about music and all this. It seems to be getting big again. This whole stuff, and it was big about 10 years ago, and it's back again. And it's basically it's this that pop and rock music were cultural scenes created by the CIA. And I don't say that's not true. It's actually you might be onto something there, or else it popularized it as a way of changing society. Again, I wouldn't be against that completely either, because we do know we're following on for a trajectory from the like the Frankfurt School on, and so and so and also that MK pop stars are MK Ultra. There's no proof of that. I've not seen any one single proof that the pop stars are, and not one single thing that proves that, and that there's all satanic symbolism in every kind of song, music, record, music video, and the other one would be that they all come from wealthy families. They're all establishment families. Well, let's go through these things. We'll talk through them one by one. Now, regarding the fact that they all come from establishment families, now we do know some do, particularly the American ones, the ones that grew up in California. Now, we do know the CIA had some kind of weird place in Laurel Canyon at the top of a hill, a film studio, and Laurel Canyon was the center of the American hippie thing. Remember, there was a British hippie thing, and there was other kind of music scenes in the world then at that time that did not involve Laurel Canyon, like the what they called the British invasion, the Liverpool, Manchester bands, and all that stuff of the '60s had nothing to do with that. So explain that one. Now, so yes, absolutely, there could be something to it. Like, the why this came to me years ago is didn't. I'm a huge music fan, pop fan. I love, I love music. I even grew up, I love music videos. And years ago, I saw some brain dead fruiter on that I used to be not friends, but he was on one of my social circus. Total brain dead type, the type that watches a video one day and says that's the truth and that guy's great, and then an hour later we'll watch a video calling that guy a shill, and then he'll go, oh, he's a shill, he's satanic, like the one of those types, just no discernment, just bounces from whatever the last video on Rumble brainwashed him. And it was not a critique, it was a bullshit thing about the Madonna song and video Frozen, which is absolutely beautiful song. How can you see what you wanted to see? How can you be what you wanted to be? You're frozen when your heart's not open. That's amazing songwriting, and amazing singing, and William Orbit's production on it. Ding ding, all those things in the background, and on top of that being an amazing song. But I could change your heart. I mean, on top of that being one of the best pop songs ever written, she's in this music video that's an absolute masterpiece and perfect for the song. And so I'm going around thinking, like, well, there's, Madonna's established herself there as one of the great pop stars of all time. The song and that incredible video in the desert where she shapeshifts into a wolf. So then I see this dumbass video from Rumble, and of course the guy sharing it believes every part of it. It's always done from a Christian perspective. Now she's invoking Baal. Now she's invoking the dark spirit, and like this. No, no, no. It's just art. It's just conceptual art. Now, has conceptual art made itself into propaganda? So absolutely it has. We know that Putin is a big user of that stuff in Russia. But this was just a phenomenal music video. It wasn't telling children to become lycanthropes and have their pineal glands sucked dry by Madonna and all this bullshit. It wasn't. It was just a phenomenal song and a phenomenal music video, and it was the perfect pinnacle of the great pop music of the 20th century encapsulated in an incredible video. There you go, right? That's the end of it. A performer at her peak. And so, I'm saying, like, and I've seen videos over the years that did seem kind of like, well, the symbolism in this is kind of a bit strange. I remember that band, Doctor and the Medics, they had a video called, they did their own version of that stupid 60s song, Going On Up to the Spirit in the Sky. And it all looks on the surface like Masonic symbolism. Could be, I don't know. But is it brainwashing people? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, it's art, and also the shock value is used in a lot of things to get people to pay attention. I remember when we were teenagers saying we should form we didn't do it, we weren't going to do it, but we said if you ever wanted to really make it big, just form an overtly satanic metal band. Not even like in the level of Slayer or Merciful Fate. I mean, like literally go out there and do it all, like and actually tell people you worship the devil and everything, and see and you'll make it. Like, you get really big, and so there's a lot of shock factor to this kind of stuff. So this whole thing, this video is about her MK Ultra, fragmentation being switched on and her monarch button. No, bullshit. It's bullshit. It's a music video. It's the same reason they can't look at conceptual art without losing their minds. It's art. It operates on a different level. And if it can sell lots of records, like in Madonna's Frozen and other things like that were fantastic, the Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Two Tribes video with I think it's Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan fighting in the ring, and that incredible remix of the song by Trevor Horn. Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. Let it enjoy it. Enjoy it. But no, no, no. This is a Christian sort of like oh, the devil's music, all this kind of fucking shit. So in terms of that's the MK Ultra thing. I have seen zero zilch proof of any rock star, pop star, who was under MK Ultra mind control. Saying that I believe it or I think this or that's not the same thing. I don't see any of it. There's lots of dingbats in the music industry who are famous because they're good looking or they can actually play music or they have charisma, and but as people they're not very intelligent. So we can just I'm scouting that one. Look, the comments are open. I don't want conjecture. I don't want the crucifixes in your skull spinning as you obey your Jewish God. Give me absolute proof, not absolute, but very good proof of a single pop star who's under MK Ultra mind control. I can't think of one. Now, what I can think of is Mafia. Now, we know for a fact that the Mafia and organized crime is massive in the music industry. We know that for a fact. If you read Led Zeppelin's bio from the 70s, Hammer of the Gods, it's all over it. The stories of dealing with the Mafia in New York and stuff like that. It was the Mafia, like you should look at Don Arden, Sharon Osbourne's father, and the Small Faces and Black Sabbath and bands he had worked with. It's gangsters. It's gangsters. And you get on the wrong side of gangsters, and you're worth more dead to them than alive. Then what do? They kill you, and that's what they did to Jimi Hendrix. It's obvious that Jimi Hendrix was murdered, and he was murdered at a point where his music was really going downhill. Like the days of the Jimi Hendrix experience had long gone by then, and he was doing all kinds of awful twaddle and waffle with people like Miles Davis and stuff like that were supposed to be planned, like nothing, like all this like jazz fusion shit, right? And it was going nowhere. And so these gangsters obviously said he's worth more to us dead than alive. So at age 27, they poured two. It's as clear as anything. They poured two bottles of wine into his lungs and killed him. He was worth more, and by forcing it into him. So that's gangsters. Brian Jones was a gangster builder apparently that would drown him for not paying a bill. You know, there's thugs and criminals in real life. So this whole thing that that they're sacrificed. No, a lot of them are junkies. And also 27's a bad age as well, especially if you're carrying a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of money on your back, and this kind of thing. And the drugs and the stressful lifestyle are everywhere, and they burn out very quickly. A lot of them, and a lot of them will tell you that. Like I remember Sting saying years ago, "Thank God he was in his 30s and already had kids when he made it, because he would have lost his mind if he was younger." And a lot of that goes on. It feeds addictions, it feeds mental illness, it feeds madness. And 27, they just happened to be a number where a lot of them died, but lots of them died at 26, 25, 30. Bon Scott was 33, Ian Curtis was 23, Sid Vicious was 21. It just got, Graham Parsons was 26, I think. So it's just, there's loads of this stuff. It's not that. So the 27 Club thing, I don't believe that either. It's a ritual sacrifice. I think the rock stars have definitely been murdered, but I think it was gangsters. And we know in the rap scene, we know what that is. It's gangs and stuff like that. Now, that they all came from wealthy families. No, that's not true at all. I mean, we may have the Laurel Canyon crowd that came from money, but that was a wealthy part of America. And remember, they're a generation who grew up with all their fathers would have been in World War II. So you know what? Is it surprising that Jim Morrison's father was at the Gulf was like one of the organizers of the Gulf of Tonkin? Yes, it's very surprising. Is it beyond the bounds of chance? No, because a lot of these people, the whole, unless you grew up in America at that time, it's hard, and particularly in parts of America like Florida, Texas, California, it's very difficult to express how many people who raised as army brats, because the United States military had just won World War II, and it owned the world, the US, and it was now expanding its sphere of influence through everything, Korea and Vietnam, and as a kind of an empire. So it wouldn't be surprising. Also, music instruments cost money, and also the entertainment industry in the music business are two places in America, New York and L.A. So they were there where the music industry was. They just happened to be down the road, and so and they all came from money. No, Kurt Cobain's family were like white trash, the trailer trash, what they call them, and that kind of thing. I'm not putting them down, by the way. The Sex Pistols were all poor. Johnny Rotten, if you read his biographies, he came up in incredible poverty. Um, Bono, who you think would be one that would be one, I grew up not far from him. Bono grew up in a regular working class home. In fact, not even, and it was a struggle for them. His mother Irish, was just a regular Irish housewife. She died when he was like a teenager, and they lived in a part of Ballymun that would be better than the part I lived in, but compared, it wasn't. It was just the working class. It was the working class people that had to buy their own homes, or renting houses rather than living in council flats. His dad was a postal worker, so that was a working class. That was a working class background that Bono grew up in. He didn't come from any connections or anything like that. Same with Kurt Cobain. Same with lots of them. Look at Black Sabbath and Ozzy and all them. Look at Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi. Tony Iommi lost his fingers working in a factory on a stamping machine before he joined. What's Jethro Tull when he joined. A lot of them came from nothing. Yeah, sure, you had the Cambridge crowd and all that stuff, like with Pink Floyd, but even then, some of them were quite, they were lower middle class. They weren't all like, the sons of Oxford, Oxbridge Dons and stuff like that. And there was also, the Beatles were all working. Look, particularly Ringo. The only one that wasn't working class was John Lennon, ironically the working class hero, who grew up in quite a nice part of the city. That would be like upper middle class, but the rest of them were just regular working class. So what's his name from the Hollies, Graham Nash. His dad was in prison. He was born in Blackpool and grew up in Manchester. Like the Smiths. They're all working class. And it's amazing how many of them are sons and daughters of Irish immigrants. The British ones, Oasis, the Smiths. They all came from the Sex Pistols, John Lydon, Dexys Midnight Runners. It just goes the Beatles. It just goes on and on. So this whole thing that their parents are all like are not never working class or poor is bullshit. I mean, it's evidently on the surface easily proven to be wrong. Like Bono, for all his faults and everything, came from very humble, almost, he came from a very humble working class background. His family had no connections. His mother died when he was young, and she was a nobody. And one that did come from a very good background was Sinead O'Connor. And look how she turned out. She didn't have the BMK Ultra. She was like that way naturally. But yeah, I mean that doesn't pan out either. So the 27 thing isn't true. That they're all that's age of sacrifice. That's not true. That they're sacrificed in the rituals. That's not true. It's a lot of gangsters. There are a lot of drug addictions and problems like that, alcohol and stuff like that, and mental illness. That they all come from. That the music videos are all satanic MK Ultra monarch programming things. No, they just aren't. Some of them are shock, absolutely, for shock value, but that's to make money. That's because why? Gangsters run the music industry. Didn't what's his name? Michael Jackson tell us that with Tommy, what's his name, Mottola, and that they all come from money. No, they don't. A lot of them come from working class backgrounds, especially back then. So that's three out of the way. So like that doesn't tie in with this kind of like musical conspiracy thing. So like there's some kind of satanic MK Ultra thing, and there's like so that's three. What was the other ones that they come from money, that it's satanic? No, that's entertainment. Yeah, that's like Black Sabbath and all that stuff. Slayer, King Diamond and Merciful Fate. That's all goth. I saw some dingbat on Tucker Carlson saying that industrial and goth music was all about worshipping Satan. No, it's not. And like I came out of that kind of scene myself, and it was most to be all atheists. A lot of them, they wouldn't believe in anything. I mean, I was considered the oddball because I was interested in paganism and stuff like that, and magic and stuff like that. But the rest of them were quite like, you know, kind of like they'd be like normies in terms of like a spiritual life. So that's not true. That one, the satanic thing. Where's the proof of that? And do has there been the things that have been mentioned, like the conspiratorial? Could some of them, or have some of them been true? Yeah, I think definitely they could. I think they've been utilized. You see how like propaganda has utilized, particularly in America, has utilized rock music. Like they twist it. Like Bruce Springsteen's "Born in the USA" is about a guy coming back from Vietnam, and it's kind of like America betrayed me, and yet when that came out at the time, it was spilled all over the place as this kind of celebration of the greatness of America, the antithesis of what the actual song was about. But that was dingbats in the media, and also things like the Republican Party and stuff like that in America. I don't see it. I don't see this great satanic MK Ultra musical conspiracy. I just don't see it. What I see is one of the shittiest businesses on earth, run by gangsters that'll do anything to make money, and it's run its course. When I see all the deaths in it, that's just like if they weren't murdered like in rap by gangsters, or in some case like Jimi Hendrix and rock, it was just mental illness from drugs. Keith Moon, people like that. I mean, you know, these people lived on the edge. That's all. That's why their music was so amazing. This is why their music was so amazing. So I do not. This whole musical conspiracy thing, I don't buy it. The evidence is just not there. There's data points that are selected, or particular parts They're selected to suit the narrative. Oh, the mamas and the papas. Oh, she wasn't 27 when she died either, Mama Cass. So, oh, maybe she was. I don't know. But we're worried about that. The mamas and papas. Yet they were related to all these families. Okay, fair enough. We get that. But Black Sabbath weren't. They came from nothing. So they'll pick like wealthy families in a certain part of America with military parents, but they won't look at the ones who came from like humble white trash kind of backgrounds, which is most of them. You look at bands like the Stooges and the MC5, and these weren't like all from money. The Ramones, they were all a lot of them are from quite dysfunctional backgrounds. They didn't have wealthy military parents. That's never brought into it. Why? Because it disrupts the the selective data used to prove the conspiracy in this case. I would love nothing more than to find out that this stuff was true, because I actually just, on many levels, detest the music industry. And, when you see someone like Coldplay being elevated up there because it's crap music and it's easy to market, it's basically NPC sound. And not because that just makes me sick when all the great bands out there. I'm also disgusted by all these people who get involved in politics, Bono included. Just get on stage, play the fucking music, entertain me, and fuck off. That's why I still love bands like Susie and the Banshees and people like that. It's just like, REM is another one. Yeah, they got a little bit of political, but as soon as it became a joke, they broke up. They were not going to go down the road of U2 and bands like that. So, yeah. And also the biggest part of all this is there's people who may have. I've heard stories of people, Christians, Christian truthers, and dumb truthers, who've had their music, who got rid of their music collection because it's satanic in it, and you robbed yourself of the joy of music, and you robbed yourself of happy memories, because some people take specific data points from a vast selection to prove a theory that really isn't true from what I can tell, because it's satanic. Your life is short enough. If you like music and you like things that someone thinks is satanic, that's your business, and not for them to take that from you and rob the joy from your heart, rob the song from your heart in this case. Sanguine gnosis, and you know, keep on rocking in the free world.